Hey all, welcome back to the Board Game Archives. Now, today we wanted to do something a little bit different and look at Dungeons and Dragons. Now, that isn't necessarily a board game in terms of what we usually look at, but it is a passion of ours. We play it a lot, and so we thought, why not try it out a little bit? And so we wanted to look at dungeon mastering. It is something that I personally do all the time. I really enjoy it, but it is something that I believe needs a little bit of work to be able to fully do. And so I just wanted to show you what all I personally use as a dungeon master, what I feel are necessities to be the best possible version, and then some other things that aren't necessarily necessary but are still very nice to have. So I'm going to walk you through them, show you why I have each of these, how they can be used, and then hopefully if you have any interest whatsoever in dungeon mastering, you'll know what to look out for. So these are all the items I have, all the necessities, and all of the niceties, if you will. So let's get started. These are all the items that I have for Dungeons & Dragons. I'll be talking about most of them in this video. If you want me to talk about the rest, though, I can definitely make another video about them. But I'm going to go through each of them one at a time, explain what exactly they do, and why they're important. First off is a Dungeon Master's screen. This is a very important item because it helps separate the game from all of your duties as a Dungeon Master. There are a lot of different strings that you have to pull as a Dungeon Master that you'll have to be doing consistently throughout the game, and this lets you do that without ruining the immersion for the players. On one side is some artwork. That artwork changes depending on the specific screen that you have, so you can pick whichever one is your favorite. And on the other side is a lot of very useful information that you can check very quickly as you go through your game. Things like the size of monsters compared to humans, or how to run combat. Two more necessities for your game are these two books, the Player's Handbook, which gives you rules on how to play the game, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, if you want to create your own campaign within Dungeons & Dragons, or if you want to be a better Dungeon Master for yourself, this is the book to get. The Dungeon Master's Guide is arguably the most important item that you'll need as a Dungeon Master, hence the name of the book. This book tells you everything you need to know on how to be a Dungeon Master, what to look out for, and how to create your own campaign. Some examples on how this book works is it tells you how to create your own world, how to design dungeons, how to create things as small as individual characters or equipment. I could go on and on for hours about how much this book has to offer, but I'd let the book do the talking for itself. The Dungeon Master's Guide retails for about $50, but if you're not willing to spend that much money, you can always find a free copy online. And while not as much of a necessity, the Player's Handbook is really important for if you want to learn the rules of the game. So it tells you everything that you need to know as a player, things like how to create your own character, how to use spells, how to use equipment, things of that nature. But the book also gives you a lot of very useful information on how the rules go. So for instance, if you're not very familiar with how combat plays, or you need to familiarize yourself with things like saving throws, you could always check this book out and then refamiliarize yourself with whatever topic it is you want to look at. Although designed for the player, the Player's Handbook is an incredibly essential tool for any Dungeon Master. The last book that's a necessity is the Monster Manual. Over the years, Dungeons & Dragons has created a lot of different monsters throughout their campaigns, and if you're creating your own campaign, this book is amazing. The Monster Manual shows each and every monster of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition in alphabetical order. You can learn a lot more about them, how they fight, what their weaknesses are, things of that nature. And so if you're looking to add monsters to your campaign, this book can help you spur up some ideas. And should you want to add these monsters in, monster cards can really help as a sort of quick guide to understand how these characters work. For instance, take this animated armor card. If you flip the card around, you can see its stats, its armor class, its hit points, its speed, its actions, and a lot more information. And there's so many other cards that can help you out. The next necessity is so obvious, it is everybody's favorite necessity, it is the dice. I would argue that the dice are the most iconic part of Dungeons & Dragons. I know many people who have never even heard of the game, yet they can tell me what a d20 is. So what's so nice about these is that you're able to customize them to your liking. The red dice on the very left are only $6. The dice that are green in the middle of this box are $30. So depending on how much you really want to spend on the game, you can customize however much you'd like. And for a quick tip for any prospective Dungeon Masters, I would recommend you have at least a few sets. That way if any players come in and maybe forgot their dice at home, you can step in and help, so that way everybody feels included. And now for the niceties, things that you don't need but are definitely nice to have. Starting with this book, the Game Master's Book of Astonishing Random Tables. So this book has a lot of different tables on different information that you can add into your game should you maybe hit a brick wall in terms of creativity. For instance, if you need a random event to happen but you can't really think of anything, you can roll a d20 and whatever it lands on coincides with the random event. You can do the same for introducing monsters or putting loot within a dungeon, anything of the sort. So if you need a creative boost, this book is perfect for you. Within this box are a bunch of different tokens you can use as your players do combat. Sometimes when you're playing with the speed of things, it can be really difficult to keep up with everything. That's where these tokens step in. For instance, you can put these initiative trackers on players' character sheets so that way you know who goes when. You can also track status effects, such as being in concentration, or being petrified, or maybe having a resistance to something. And while these are geared more towards players, they could still help. This is a token set for a paladin specifically. At the top of the box is a reusable character sheet, and once you remove it, you will see a lot of different tokens very similar to what is in the Dungeon Master's token sets. And lastly for the niceties is the World Builder's Journal, a book that would look a lot better if you knew how to take off price tags, as you can see by the schmutz up on the top. This is the perfect companion for if you're building your first ever campaign. Within this journal are a bunch of different prompts that help you create your own world and your own story. I've personally used one of these for my very first campaign, and it was much more successful than I ever could have imagined. And so just from personal experience, I can tell you that this is a very useful tool for any new Dungeon Master who needs some help in creating their first ever campaign. Now, there are other things that Dungeon Masters use to keep track of what's been happening. Some use pencils and paper, some use Microsoft Excel sheets, some use Google Docs, things of that nature, just to be able to track what has happened in the last 2 sessions, so that way you know what next to expect. So it is definitely up to your discretion, whatever makes you most comfortable, but something that can help you keep track of what's happened and where to go next is really useful. And so that's about it. I will update this video if I need to, if there's anything that I may have missed. If you have any sort of Dungeon Master experience and there's anything that you would personally suggest or change, please let me know down in the comments. What I love about this game is that there's no one way to typically do it. Everybody has their own way. And that's what makes this game so fun, is that there's not one set by the books. You can explore, you can innovate, you can do whatever it is that makes you most comfortable. So, like always, please start a discussion down in the comments if you'd like. If there's anything that, like I said, you would like to suggest or change. And that's about it. Thank you so much for your time. As always, this has been such a joy for the past 4 months that we've been posting, and just to see how fast we've grown has been incredible, and we cannot wait to keep showing you what else we have to offer. Thank you again so much. Bye!